Hey everybody, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here, and today we're actually talking about Google and the Department of Health in the United States because Google apparently secretly installed spyware into 1 million phones due to COVID tracking. Now, if this is true, obviously this is a huge violation of privacy. This is coming from the Boston Herald, Gayla Cawley reporting. Good work here, and this is crazy, but here's what's going on. The Department of Public Health was accused of working with Google to quote unquote secretly install COVID-19 contact tracing spyware into more than 1 million Android smartphones. Now, the New Civil Liberties Alliance, a Washington, D.C. based nonprofit, filed a lawsuit this week in the U.S. District Court on behalf of two Massachusetts Android users who allege that a DPH contact tracing app was downloaded into their phones on or around July 1st of 2021 without their, quote, permission or awareness, end quote. And to quote the complaint, conspiring with a private company to hijack residents' smartphones without the owner's knowledge or consent is not a tool that the Massachusetts Department of Public Health may lawfully employ in its efforts to combat COVID-19. Such brazen disregard for civil liberties violates both the United States and Massachusetts constitutions, and it must stop now. Now, a DPH spokesperson declined to comment, stating that the department has not received any documentation related to the lawsuit and, quote, does not comment on pending litigation, end quote. The complaint also alleges that DPH began working with Google on June 15th of 2021 to install the app into more than 1 million Android phones located in the state of Massachusetts, obviously impacting people who live or work in that state. Now, this was allegedly done to, quote unquote, increase adoption because, and I quote again, few Massachusetts residents voluntarily installed, end quote, the actual software for this, meaning it was available to Massachusetts residents. We are talking about this in the state of Massachusetts, and many Massachusetts basically residents said, no, I don't want this, and so they just started pushing it to Android devices. Now, once the app is downloaded, the user's phone is constantly connected to and information is exchanged with other nearby devices via Bluetooth to create a record of those connections, according to the complaint. And this is essentially how this would work. Your Bluetooth is enabled. You would essentially, have this app. If you reported, let's say you had COVID, it would start pinging all the other Bluetooths around that had the app, and so you would get notified, or somebody else would get notified to say, hey, you are close to somebody or in proximity with somebody that has COVID. That's what we're talking about. So if a user opts into the app and reports being infected by COVID-19, like I said, an exposure notification is sent to individuals around, but also on the user's connection record. Meaning, as the app is coming back and forth, you're walking down the street and you pass somebody else with this, you then basically register that connection with that person. It's supposed to be anonymous, all those kinds of things. So if somebody does not opt in, their information, though, is still available via Bluetooth and becomes available to Google, DPH, and other third parties, which can then trace the user's identity and past contacts through device information. Again, this is according to the complaint, meaning even if you're saying no and you're opting out, because this is in your phone, they are still gathering and collecting this information. At least 24 other states have developed COVID-19 contact tracing apps using Google's API, but Massachusetts is the only state to, quote unquote, surreptitiously embed the app onto mobile devices that DPH locates within its borders. So if I flew, let's say, to Boston, Massachusetts for a speaking engagement or business or something along those lines, and I have an Android phone, would my phone, because I'm within the borders of Massachusetts, now get pushed this essential contact tracing software against my consent? Or I should say without my consent, because we're not even talking about consent, they're just doing it. Once downloaded, the app does not appear alongside other apps on the device's home screen. It can only be found by opening the settings and using the View All Apps feature, which keeps users essentially unaware of its presence in many cases. As somebody that uses Android on a regular basis, it's very rare that I go into the all apps. I do it periodically to clean things out, meaning I don't keep excess apps. I'm not one of those people that has like 800 apps on their phone. I'm very, very I guess, cleanly with that. I have cleanliness or good hygiene with that, but a lot of people don't. A lot of people just keep adding and adding and adding until they replace the phone in a couple of years. So when Android users discovered and then deleted the contact tracing app, DPH allegedly proceeded to reinstall it onto their smartphones, according to this lawsuit. Also, according to the lawsuit as well, it appears that iPhone users actually had to consent before a similar app was installed into their devices, meaning iPhone had some extra protection from Apple, which, hey, good on you, iPhone. But obviously, this is a huge problem. If this is actually what happened, as it is being alleged, and Google was pushing over 1 million of these apps without consent. They were simply doing it as an update or however they were doing it. That obviously is a very huge problem, considering that in the United States, we have consent laws for these kinds of things. So I've spent a good chunk of time in China and overseas, and there are a lot of different laws. So if you were installing a piece of software in China, it will sideload like 30 different other applications, doing God knows what. That is not possible here, only in the sense that we have regulations that say if software is being installed into your device, whether it's a computer, a phone, whatever it is, it's supposed to prompt you to say, hey, can I also install this? You may see that in some installers that say, hey, I need to install Java or a supporting utility. Do you consent to that? Yes, you have to consent to that in order to have this application run, but you can also say no. And this is something that apparently Google is breaking. So we're going to see what goes on with this. This obviously is a huge, huge thing. And if it's happening in Massachusetts, I'm wondering if it's happening somewhere else, because they have said in this article that other states have these, but it's not happening. I think time will tell, because Google has basically had similar things in their history, in their past of doing these kinds of things. And so here we are. That's a huge, huge thing. Obviously, everybody wants to stay safe during the pandemic, but we don't necessarily have to have tracking apps that are data mining us and violating our privacy. And that is a huge, huge thing. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP. And feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well. And as always, stay safe, stay online, and please, residents of Massachusetts, attempt to stay private. Take care.